I am good. Hi, Akash. Can you hear me?
Hello, Pooja here.
Hi, Pooja. Is my audio is fine?
Yes, fine.
Perfect. Thank you, Pooja.
Yeah.
Pooja, can you hear me? Sanchit, Luke?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I thank you for joining our call. I welcome Mr. Badri, Khushbu, Prakash, Preeti Ashok, Ravinder, Rishikesh Ambre, Santosh, Shubhangi, SKS, Suhani. We'll wait for some more minutes before we start. We already have our presenter, Mr. Luke, joining from Paris. Just give us 2-3 more minutes and then we are going to start the webinar. Pooja, you have to unmute Luke also.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect.
I
Thanks.
think there are some setting issues which Pooja is working. Pooja, you have sent it to Anup as well, right? The link to Anup.
Yes, sir. I have sent.
Okay. Some more people are joining. I really welcome everyone who is joining this webinar and giving their time. So we have Abhishek Sinha, Anirban Sarkar, Jayesh, Dave, and Ravinder also joining. We will expect a lot of interaction from you. You can send us your queries, any doubt over chat window, and if you want to talk to us, you send a message. We will unmute your mic, and then you can interact with us. We will have few polls, few quizzes. So please participate in that, so we can, we can really interact. We can learn together, and if you're answering quiz questions, you will have some prizes to be won. I invite Ashish Goel, Keshwan, Luke. Yes, it's better when you are presenting. You turn on your camera. So, guys, if you can chat, give your introduction in chat, from which company you are, which location you are. That will be really great. Just put it in chat window so we know our audience is coming from which place and which company. So please do mention in chat, and we would love to know more about you. We welcome Akhil also joining from Delhi, Keshwan from Bangalore, 4C Pharma. Thank you, Keshwan. I would love to have some more people introducing themselves. Shubhangi from Pune. Thank you, Shubhangi, for joining. Prakash is also from Pune. Prakash, which company, Prakash? If you can mention which company and location, and if you want to tell what you guys are doing, we can really customize this webinar for you. Okay, Alsted Insurance, we welcome you. Yes, Technology, Java Practice, Prakash, yes. So you are from Pune then, right? Hi, Sneha from Ishri, India. Panchkula, interesting. IT is going every part of India now. Thanks, Sneha, for joining. Rajesh from True Global, Pune again. We welcome you, Rajesh. Some more introduction, quick, last 1 minute before we jump into our webinar. We have almost 30 people already here. Ashish Goel, from which company you are, Ashish? Kaushik, Devnath, Keshavan, will be happy to hear from you. Okay, so let me start. Okay. Oh, you are from Noida, Kaushik. Which company, Kaushik? Okay, fine. Okay, all set. Insurance. Thanks, Ashish. So let me just give you background and what Meteonic does. Meteonic is 18-year-old DevSecOps solution company dealing with niche security solution. We provide automation and integration solution to simplify your complex software development process across SDLC to help develop quality and secure code, and all that with reduced cycle time, especially for finance companies. So this is about Meteonic. Before I hand over to Luke, let me introduce Luke. Luke, thank you so much for joining from Paris. So Luke is Vice President of Global Product Marketing at CAST, where he leads CAST Imaging, the most accurate MRI for software applications. Before joining CAST, Luke held key positions in product management, business development, and sales at prestige software companies like Accenture, Vodafone, and Siemens. So, Luke, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Very happy to be here today. So yes, so I'm Luc Perrin. I lead indeed CAST Imaging. It's one of the two products of CAST. We are an ISV, global ISV headquartered in France, but a lot of our business is actually in India and in the US. So we have a global business with 400 people, 1/3 in North America, 1/3 in Europe, and 1/3 in India. And indeed, we're going to talk today about what we lead with the offerings that we have that are about software intelligence, which is basically giving intelligence about your software to the people who deal with it, who are in charge of changing it or modernizing it or migrating it to the cloud. So and so we'll see how our products, and particularly CAST Imaging, can help you deal with those challenges, especially in the context of modernization and cloud migration. So yeah, so I don't know if it was just the introduction, or we can start with the presentation. I think it's it's maybe for the presentation straight away. Okay, all right. So yeah, thanks for going to the next slide. So a few words about CAST to start with. Well, we are in the business, you will see, of software intelligence. Why? Because actually software is complex. Not only just the software itself, but dealing with that software is complex and can be really overwhelming for the software engineering teams, the developers, the tech leads, the architects who are faced with this software. It's probably it's very, very complex, and it looks like actually a black box to many because you will see of the challenges. There is not a lot of documentation about it, about what's inside. It's difficult to master, to understand, to change it, to control it, etc. Right? And indeed, that's a big issue, because enterprises, organizations need to change it, need to constantly adapt it, change it, modernize it to adapt to the pace of the business, to the need of the customers, to the regulations as well evolving, etc., and to the changes also in the workforce. Also, it's becoming the top peril in the business world today. I mean, I will not elaborate too much on the risks that are on the risk and on the big of the big failures that we have seen in some large companies, which are due to software. In the end, so I can think about some airline companies that have some meltdown of their IT systems due to some old legacy software, as an example. So to address this complexity, if you can move to the next slide, where we're coming from with CAST, as I said, we are coming with software intelligence. We define software intelligence as insights about your software inner workings. So, so at the end of the day, you're familiar with business intelligence. You get insights about your business so that you can take better software decision. Software intelligence is just paying for software. You get better insights. You get the insights you need into your software in order to take better decisions. And so we address actually generally two types of users that align very well with our product. One is for the business and IT executives, let's say helping them address or answer some questions they have around their portfolios of applications, around the risks that they are running with this, around what is let's say helping them plan some efforts, let's say first understand actually what they are dealing with this portfolio of applications, and then plan some of those actions. Also, we are addressing the teams that are actually working in the trenches, I would say, who are indeed dealing with that software, the applications, and software engineers and architects, etc., who need or let's say who lack that level, that visibility into their software inner workings, and who are asking constantly tons of questions as they go about their job. So you see some examples here. What do I need to change in the code to make this application run in the cloud? So how do I handle these some of those change requests that are coming from the business, as an example. I can also identify some critical risks, structural risks, that are in my software. So we're really talking about structural risk and issues that are in the software, not really at the code level, but at the, let's say, if you take the software as a system. So those holistically, let's say, what are the structural risks that are impacting the performance of my system, as an example. So those are the two personas, the category, let's say, types of user we are serving with our product at CAST. So if you can go to the next slide. Yes. So companies are reaching out to us very often for because they're facing let's say, a specific issues, and one of that issue is basically the need to to move beyond the lift and shift phase. Essentially, they may have already moved some of their application in the cloud in the lift and shift mode, where you just take your application, your workload, and which was running on premise, and move it to the cloud. Now it's actually the more complex, the largest, and actually also the software, the applications that contain some legacy technology that needs to be moved into the cloud to get the benefits of the cloud, of the agility, of the lower cost, possibly, etc., the faster, the faster time to market for new features, new application, etc. But now we are talking about those applications that are not that easy, that you cannot just lift and shift, that you need to change, or maybe some have been lifted and shifted, but they haven't managed to take all the benefits from the cloud because they are not using some native cloud services, as an example. So how do I do this? How do I go into this next phase, which is actually where we talk about moving the most critical, the largest business systems, or let's say software systems of my company to the cloud. And that's actually one of the key drivers for reaching out to CAST and contacting us, because let's say, the insights, the intelligence that our platforms can provide to those companies will really help them address this big hurdle. So two products that I mentioned that we are running at CAST, quite a simple portfolio on our side. But on one side, you have CAST Highlights, So highlights, as the name suggests, is give you some highlights, very rapid analysis of your portfolio, and give you a first level of insights into that portfolio. So I'm listing here some of those insights. You have the cloud readiness, or more precisely, actually, the cloud maturity. How mature is my portfolio, the applications in my portfolio? What are the ones that I can easily, rapidly, let's say, move to the cloud with little efforts? What are those that will need a bit more effort? So I'm using a highlight to actually identify with facts about my software how to migrate and my applications to the cloud. I get some additional levels of insight in the software composition. So SCA, very well-known area, which is about what are the open source risks and that I could be running due to, let's say, across my whole portfolio. We have some first level of insights around software health, the reliability, the resiliency of that software. And now we have also recently launched the Green Insights. What is the green impact of my, let's say, of my software? That is also something that CAST Highlight can deliver. And on the other side, when you want, so CAST Highlight was about the portfolio, you can drill down with CAST Imaging deep into, let's say, a specific application. So CAST Imaging will give you what we would say deep insights into the inner workings, let's say the state and the inner workings of that application. And so it's here when you are dealing with that application, when you need to change it, when you need to transform it, to migrate it, when you need to optimize it, to improve it, etc., or just when you need to understand it, ramp up on it because you are ramping up, you are a newcomer or it's a new application that is in your realm. CAST Imaging will help you visualize the inner workings, understand the inner workings of your software extremely rapidly without digging into the code or basically asking questions to SME. So you see below some of the insights you get. It's an automatic. It creates an automatic blueprint of your software. You can see all the data structures, the code elements of your software. You have you can do some impact analysis of changes, etc. You visualize very easily transactions due to the dependencies between all those elements, etc. So that gives you an unprecedented visibility into your software to really drive the understanding of what's inside, and so for you to take the better decisions. So if we go to next one, yeah, you can see here in this slide how we articulate our two products in the use case I mentioned, which is around this cloud modernization. Typically, our customers who are dealing with a large portfolio of applications, they would start with Highlight to basically get this first level of insights about their portfolio, and particularly around so we are basically enabling teams to categorize their applications very rapidly into the level of efforts in order to migrate them to the cloud. And indeed, after, let's say, when you are now working on migrating one to the cloud, with some of those applications needing some changes, some heavy changes, or maybe some transformation, replacing the existing on-prem database to a cloud database service, as an example, there are you need the level of visibility and understanding of what's inside your application and that's where you actually pass that application through CAST imaging in order to in order to well, to get that level of visibility, that map, that blueprint of your applications, that understanding, and so for you, in order to take the right decisions about your application. So I'm not sure if the slides are still shown or not. Ah, yeah, sorry. Yeah, that was okay. So now let's focus a little bit more on the product I lead, which is CAST imaging. So for this second part, so CAST imaging, mentioned at the beginning here, we sometimes call it the MRI for custom software applications, because indeed that's really that gives you this visibility, unprecedented visibility, just like an MRI machine would give about a patient's body. So where we're starting with CAST imaging, where let's say, what are the challenges that we are addressing with this? Well, these are the let's say, you can see here the three main challenges that that any software engineer is typically dealing with. First, the massive complexity of those applications. They have now reached millions of lines of code. We have customers who are dealing with even dozens of millions of lines of code in their applications. They are made up. They are using dozens of technologies as well, all the way from the data, the data layer, data persistence layer, all the way to the front end of the application. And they are made up of hundreds of thousands of interdependent elements. So whether it's a code element, like, you know, classes, functions, methods, or I mean pages, stored procedures, etc., or it can be also some data structure, you know, tables, views, or columns in those tables, etc. And all these are calling each other, being called by each other, etc. So that create all those dependencies that makes it very difficult to modify something without, I mean, any small modification has some massive impact across the whole application. Second, there is this aspect of knowledge loss. Those applications, many of those applications have been around for quite some time. They've been changed, they've been modified over the years. They have not been documented, typically, no technical documentation about what's inside. And the people who built it, maybe they are not anymore around in the company. They have moved to other projects, or they are moved out to other companies, or maybe they have retired from the workforce. We see that with our customers in the mainframe world, where, let's say, mainframe skills are becoming rarer and rarer. And still, even if you have those two aspects, there is this need for constant change, constantly changing the application, changing it just to maintain it, to correct bugs, to add features, but also, as we discussed earlier, to transform it, to migrate it to the cloud, etc. So that is the struggle that software engineers are faced with. So if you can go to the next slide. So essentially, that means that as you need to change that application, you as a software engineer, you typically ask yourself tons of questions. What is the impact if I change this? How can I, let's say, make this application run on AWS, as an example? How can I address this issue, let's say, eradicate this technical depth, or address this issue of performance or reliability of my application in this particular function, etc. Tons of questions that basically makes that's actually where developers in general spend most of their time trying to understand and find answers to those questions. It's not about writing code, it's really about understanding the software. So how do they find the answers to that? Well, if I can go to the next slide. Essentially, because there is no documentation, no technical knowledge base of that application, they have two ways. Either, while they go into the code, every time they have a question, they go back to the code and they dig into the code through millions of lines of code. This takes time. This is potentially inaccurate. You might miss something, some of the dependencies, etc. That's a very difficult manual exercise and very long exercise, right? Or you may ask some SMEs if they are still around, if they are available, if they don't have some other priorities, because they may be able to answer some of those questions. This also can take time, and it can be also frustrating both for the ones who is asking the questions and the one who is supposed to answer that question. But the result of this, the net of this, is that companies are, let's say, lacking this agility, this business agility, this reactivity, because of those challenges faced by the software engineering organizations. I've come across some companies who basically are saying no to a lot of the changes requested by the business because they are too scared. They realize that they will not be able to find the answers rapidly, and they prefer to say no and just be a blocker, a roadblock, rather than touching and breaking things. So we're coming up in the next slide. You will see let's say, our answer at CAST with that. So it's CAST imaging. Imaging comes indeed from the name, the imaging system for software, like an MRI for software. So how does that work? Essentially, that CAST imaging will automatically do the reverse engineering of any custom-built system. So you feed CAST imaging with your source code, with the database scripts, with configuration file, property files, etc. We, CAST imaging, understand more than 150 different technologies, programming languages, database engines, libraries, and frameworks, etc. And let's say by running this semantic analysis of those software artifacts, we will, let's say, CAST imaging will automatically produce this, let's say, this knowledge base, this technical knowledge base about your software that looks like this interactive blueprint. So it's actually the content, let's say, the way we store data in CAST imaging is via a graph database. Every single node of that database is a component, a code element, a data structure, up to the most elementary one, like, you know, a function, a method, or just can be even a column, as an example. And every edge between those nodes represent a relationship between each of those elements. It is being called by this element, or is called by that element, or is relying on this element, etc. And so, because it's visual, because it's interactive, it's very easy for the users to basically zoom in. I mean, first navigate into this blueprint, zoom in, and to really understand, thanks to this visual representation, let's say, how things works in the inside, what is it made up, and what are the impact of changes. So you can see in the next slide, as an example, some of the screens of CAST imaging. You see 4 screens here that shows the automatic discovery of what's inside that application. It maps out the various technologies, the technology bricks that make up that application, so that teams can very rapidly learn and understand. We have some customers who don't leave the newcomers on the project. They don't give them access to the code without them having spent time in CAST imaging to really understand that application. Second, you see this screen where we are showing here a transaction. So a transaction, it's you take a start point, which can be a screen of an application, a page, as an example, and it will automatically make you visualize every single element that compose that application. So every single elements that is involved in that transaction, all the way to the database. You can run precise analysis, impact analysis. You start with an element, you identify what are the colors of that element and what are the colors of those colors, etc., up to any level of your application. So very, very interesting. So for instance, when you are making some changes to a specific element, you can immediately visualize what are the impacted elements across all the layers of the application. So for instance, you want to do regression testing, you know exactly which screens to retest after you made that change, as an example. And so what we do as well, we are providing more insights here in context. So basically, we are able to pinpoint some structural flaws of that application, or some of the cloud maturity blockers or boosters that exist in that application. So because we have this understanding, CAST Imaging has this understanding of the application, by applying some rules, structural quality rules, as an example, or the let's say the rules that exist in CAST Highlight, we are able to pinpoint the elements that cause some of those risks, those flaws, or that can be blockers to a migration to the cloud. So that you don't need to do some digging, it's right there, let's say, shown up in front of you. So as you can see here from Kindred, this quote that I like very much. Well, before, it used to take us, I'd say, 3 months to understand and find something that we were looking for. We can see that in minutes with CAST Imaging. So the use cases that typically our customers use CAST Imaging for. Well, the first one, and the very first one that spans across actually many, let's say, many different use cases, is about discovery, understanding an application. With CAST Imaging, it makes it very fast, up to 50% faster. So it can be good for newcomers. It can be good when you have acquired a new business and you are now in charge of the ADM of an application. You ramp up much faster, they ramp up much faster with imaging. We have also, let's say, a lot of customers who are using CAST Imaging to rapidly assess applications by, let's say, rapidly understanding what's inside and being able to assess that application in the context, for instance, of technical due diligence. Second one, and that's the one I started with, is the application modernization. Well, the first step of application modernization is actually, let's say, the understanding, the discovery of what's inside. That's what our customers use CAST Imaging for. Understanding what is the as-is situation, the architecture, the inner workings, some of the issues as well, the technical depth that is there, and then being able to plan the modernization activities, whether it's about breaking down a monolith into microservices, or replacing an important piece of the application, like changing the database engine, or removing a framework, as an example, etc. And we have a lot of customers that are also, for instance, in the business of mainframe, modernizing mainframe, which not necessarily mean migrating out of the mainframe, but can also, let's say, change and enhance and add on top of the mainframe to make it more agile, more up to date, more modern, etc. That's the first, let's say. CAST Imaging will enable you to map the internal of those applications, whatever the technologies, to give you the insights you need in order to carry out this modernization. And last one, if we say that modernization is like making some big changes to the application, you also have small changes. That is actually the majority of the work that software teams do on their application, and so those maintenance activity, whether it's a corrective maintenance or evolutive maintenance, that makes it much easier, much faster, also to use CAST Imaging as a knowledge base about the application that stores and that preserves the inner workings, how that application works. So when you want to make some small changes, you can refer to CAST Imaging to rapidly understand what's inside and what could be the impact of those changes, as an example. So being conscious of the time, maybe we'll maybe go quickly through those screenshots that explain a little bit, let's say, some screens, so some of the features and capabilities of CAST Imaging, to here in the context of acquiring knowledge, understanding what's inside, whether understanding the, let's say, how the application is made up, understanding some specific end-to-end flows, well, let's say transactions from a web page, or even a data graph that starts from a data element, from like a table, and see immediately where this data table is used all across my application. As an example, you can also see with CAST imaging in let's say dependencies between applications. Once you have 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 applications that have been analyzed in CAST imaging, you can use the features of app-to-app dependencies in order to see the dependencies not only within application but also between those applications. So that helps, for instance, in when you need to make some let's say migrate some of those applications out of a data center, as an example, or it's very valuable also in the case of mainframe when you have multiple applications highly interdependent with each other. How do you plan the various waves of modernization of those applications? So yeah, I mentioned this already. Maybe for being conscious of time, we can go quickly, but some opportunities for modernization, for indeed identifying candidates for decoupling, for microservices, understanding the database, the adherence of the application with the database when you need to change that database engine, as an example. We are also introducing some advisors that are really accompanying you in various scenarios of migration, for instance, moving from Oracle on-prem to Oracle in the cloud, or migrating to AWS or Aurora, as an example, or to PostgreSQL. What are the elements that you need to pay attention to, and what is the level of efforts that you need to put in order to, well, to realize those motions, as an example. Yes, so we discussed this about the responses left to change, or let's say the more evolutive maintenance of those applications, understanding the impact of changes, doing very rapidly impact analysis to see what are the impacted components, and identifying the area for improvement in your applications. So by applying those structural quality rules, you will immediately see in context what are the elements where you need to focus your time. For instance, these are cloud blockers because there is some file manipulation there. That's something that will not work in the cloud. That element will be highlighted, this class or this method, etc. And your team will just focus their efforts on go and address this particular element. So we're coming to the end here to explain a little bit who we work for. Well, we work for a very large range of customers and partners as well. So a lot of the GSI and GCC in India, as an example, they use CAST imaging. They started using us for ramping up their teams when they are dealing with new applications, really accelerating the ramp up of their applications. So we have the case of Accenture as an example, but we have also companies in various vertical industries that are heavy, that are software heavy, so like in the insurance business, but also some ISVs as an example, who are indeed using CAST imaging to either understand or document an applications that they have lost knowledge of, or indeed, of course, as the first step of the modernization activity to really, let's say, automatically assess let's say, the state of that application and plan the work. Use that as use the output of CAST imaging to plan what would be the changes to be made and assess even the workload of that. What would be the let's say the changes to be made when we migrate from this on-prem database to this cloud database service? Where do I need, what are the changes that I need to make in my applications where the data that on-prem database is used and that is not compatible with this new database system, as an example? So very very a lot of many different use cases, a lot of customers and partners. I forgot to mention actually the 3 cloud providers that are indeed using CAST imaging as part of their let's say to help their own customers migrate from their on-prem data center to their cloud services. CAST imaging is typically used to do this initial assessment and to accompany that whole migration. And yeah, I will stop for now. So I don't know if we take some questions now. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Luke, for such a nice presentation. So if you have any queries, you can type in Q&A box. We'll be happy to answer that. And before I introduce Mr. Anup, I'd like to launch a poll. Pooja, can you launch a poll about cloud migration stuff? Yeah, so what is the size of your IT portfolio that you may consider for cloud migration? So we are getting some responses. Excellent. Thank you so much for your responses. I can see medium 11 to 50 applications, around 43% of the audience wants to move. Large 51 to 100, around 27%, and very large, more than 100 plus application, 27. So it's more or less 50% towards medium application range, and the 25 towards large applications. It's a really good set, and we will definitely get in touch with you how you can migrate your applications to cloud with the help of CAST. Thank you. Let me introduce Mr. Anup. Mr. Anup, can you switch on your camera, possible?
Hi, good evening.
Yeah. I can see some background noise from your side, Anup.
Yeah.
Let me, in the meantime, I'll just introduce you. So, Mr. Anup is accomplished professional with distinguished 19 years tenure in IT sector and holds position of Chief Information Security Officer. He was onboarded as a CISO on August 1st, 2020 at MACOM as a part of ISMS certification. And he has been leading various VAPT efforts since then. Subsequently, he established internal information security audit team and implemented stringent information security management procedures. And he collaborated with cyber crisis management team as well. So Anup, I welcome you for the session. The way we discussed, I will ask some questions and please answer to those questions so our audience can really get benefit from your experience. So in your opinion, Anup, what are the key considerations that organizations should keep in mind when embarking on legacy modernization journey? Anup, can you hear me? Anup?
Yeah, I was able to hear you, but I was on mute.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah. So actually, the question was like prioritization and focus. That's what that really helped me to evaluate and prioritize which legacy application are most critical to modernization for the biggest impact. So I can focus 6 key applications as a first stage.
Okay. And can you tell us what challenge you faced during modernization of millions of lines of code? for these six application. As I understand, some of those applications were 25-year-old.
Yeah. So the most of these legacy applications, the problem was that we couldn't able to find out the relationships and the calls between the procedures and further calls within the APIs. So this CAST imaging part really helped us to identify uh, how these things are interconnected, and the documentation part made easy, which helped us to improve 20% more accurate in modernization.
Okay. So what specific result did you observe through the utilization of CAST in terms of application maintenance and modernization? And how did it influence your organizational objectives?
Well, like I said, we could, as said, this is a MRI scan of the application, so we could able to understand and document. That's what the major difficult area for us while we considering the modernization, and we are planning to modernize the critical 2-3 applications. But by knowing about CAS and by knowing the field and by experience that how this is going to help us, we considered 3 more applications so that we could able to easily modernize that.
Do you think you saved some time with the help of CAST? Like, how much time if you're not having the CAST and with help of CAST?
Earlier, it was like to understand the effort and to plan. It would take around 20 to 30, means like around 1 month time for us to take. But with the insight of these 5 hours, and we could able to identify what are these things to be prioritized for refactor and reframe. So we could easily identify by telling that within a couple of weeks for taking the
Excellent.
decisions.
Thank you, Anu. And looking ahead, what do you see as a future trends or challenges in application modernization, especially in context of security and evolving landscapes?
So, as you really mentioned, like security and evolving landscape, we cannot able to concentrate on a single cloud environment. So now the customers are looking for multi-cloud capability of the applications. So we have a feature like we got recently highlight also. So we would be able to find out which is the best cloud solution for migrating easily, and how we can parallelly make it as a multi-tenant, multi-cloud native applications.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anu. We will definitely love to know more about in some of the sessions.
Thank
And
you.
if our participant wants to know, we will connect to them so they can learn from you and your immense experience when they start their own journey for modernization. So
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you for giving that opportunity, and we can work together to get more customers in India, GCC as well.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
that.
so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Anu, for your inputs. Now we open for any questions from audience side. You can put it in chat window or you can put it in Q&A. We'll be happy to answer them. Else we will launch our second poll. Pooja, can we launch our second poll? Have you implemented any software knowledge transfer initiative within your organization? If we have options like manual, automated, but considering it, no, not yet. Some more participation, then I will close this poll. So it's like 30% of people, 25% of people are considering as a manual, 25% people are considering as automated, and almost 50% are in phase of considering it. So thank you so much for your participation. So it's like more or less people are thinking about it. everybody knows the value of software knowledge transfer initiative, and some people are doing manually, some people are doing automate based with some tools. Thank you so much. So, do we have any question, Pooja?
Anchor, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Luke. I see a question in the Q&A that I would like to take up because I think it's about CAST imaging and the dashboards.
Yes.
Indeed, I didn't speak too much about the dashboards because let's say I wanted to put the focus on what I would call the transformations and the modernizations and the cloud migrations, etc. But indeed, I mean, I mentioned this, that as part of CAST imaging, which is able to really formalize the inner workings of any custom built software, right? Once we have this modelized in CAST imaging, we are able to apply some let's say industry rules, and particularly rules that are governed by an ISO standard, which is the ISO 5055 standard, as an example. And out of this, by applying those rules, we are able to, for instance, calculate some element of sizing of the software, putting some grades on that software in terms of reliability, security, etc. All those elements, performance, efficiency, etc. And that's what that we call the health dashboard or the management dashboard, right? We have also let's say a detailed dashboard that is called the engineering dashboards, where you see basically every single occurrence of some risk or some flaws in the software. Some could be major, and those are actually immediately highlighted in imaging in the interactive blueprint that I showed. But let's say all of them identified by the application of those rules, they come into this engineering dashboards. So let's say our customers typically use the dashboards to address to make improvement to their applications, which can be run indeed in parallel or at the same time you want to modernize that software, but also can be run let's say outside of this exercise when you are in the continuous improvement mode of your application, when you want to eradicate the technical debt, etc. So that's not, let's say, for me, that was not just a major focus of this webinar today, but of course, we have a lot of customers that use both this, let's say, address this issue of the lack of knowledge of their application, how that works, etc., but also use the dashboards to govern the state and the technical debt and the structural quality of their applications. That's also part of CAST imaging product.
Thank you, Luke. We have one more question, but whatever features we couldn't focus today, we will have a separate customized demo for your company, and we will make sure we focus on them. Luke, can you answer the second question? In what specific way does CAST imaging facilitate the transition from monolithic system to microservices, and how does it provide practical strategy and guidance for this transformation?
Yes. So yeah, very good question. So here, well, let's say the way we model the applications by immediately identifying all the elements that make up an application and the dependencies between those elements, you are able, for instance, to identify by looking at transactions, by looking transactions by transactions of your applications, you are able to identify some specific transactions that are more like maybe business functions, etc., that could be let's say decoupled and created, let's say spin out as a specific microservice. So this visualization of your application and this breaking down the application into the visual representation of your application makes it very easy to identify what are the elements that could be made as a microservice, as an example, what are the elements that are tightly coupled or, on the contrary, loosely coupled with the rest of the application that can also be very good candidates for microservices. So it's let's say this visual representation and this automatic representation of that in CAST imaging makes it very easy to identify those candidates versus, again, you need to compare versus what? Versus just you looking at the code. That is very difficult, just looking into the code to identify how can you how can you break down this big monolith into, let's say, multiple, much smaller microservices.
Thank you, Lake. There is one more question. In what way does CAST imaging contribute to improving structural resiliency, security, and efficiency of application?
Yes, well, we are a bit back into the dashboards area, indeed. But here, let's say, we have an option in the imaging part of imaging, if I may say something like this. But in the interactive blueprint, you have the ability to toggle on the visualization of what we call the major structural flows that are indeed impacting, for instance, the security, the resiliency, or the efficiency of that application. And so here, this feature is very powerful because you can immediately see the element and drill down on that element to understand what could be let's say the root cause of those issues that are indeed some issues that are not just at the code quality. We are well beyond this. We are at let's say, some structural aspect of that application. So for instance, like I did give an example, it would identify that there is let's say, in a loop, there is a call to a remote resource, or let's say some access to the database that can be very impactful in terms of performance. CAST imaging will automatically pinpoint that element where there is this loop, and so we'll show you that, well, there is this issue that will give the rationale of that issue, and that will also give suggestions on how to improve that. So that's one way to indeed use CAST imaging to address those most let's say the most critical, or the major structural risk and issue in the application. And then, as I said just earlier, the engineering dashboard will contain all those identified risk and problem aligned with this ISO 50055 standards that impact indeed security, efficiency, resiliency of the application. That's also where you will be able to identify those issues, create some remediation plan automatically to address those issues. So that's how CAST imaging is used for that.
Thank you so much, Luke. I hope it's answered the question. Else, we will please schedule a one-to-one demo. And if you want to try CAST on your environment, we'll be happy to give you a free license. You can play with that. You can find out these issues what you have and what is there in your software. So thank you so much, Luke. If you don't have any more questions, I would love to go for quiz. We have 2 questions for you. And if you answer correct questions, both the questions, we will be happy to send you the gifts. So Pooja, can you launch our quiz? Which of the following best describe your organization's current step in terms of modernization? Can we have some answers? Just starting to explore options, actively planning modernization initiative. Excellent. 100% people who have given answer. Okay, it's changing now. Most of the people are actively planning to modernize initiative. Some of them, 17% says modernization complete. Congratulations. And 17% people say they're just starting to explore. So if you are starting to explore or actively planning to modernize initiative, please do have a look at CAST. Give us a try so you will know what impact we can really make. As Anup mentioned, they will be able to save many weeks of effort with the help of CAST imaging. Pooja, can we go to the next quiz? and we have 3 more minutes, so we are happy to answer any questions. What are the primary areas you encounter when dealing with legacy application in your modernization journey? Your responses will be, oh, most of the people are saying all, excellent, lack of architecture, visibility and dependencies, excellent. Somehow people are not saying lack of documentation. When I was a developer, I used to struggle with old documentation. So most of the people are saying all of the above, definitely lack of documentation, lack of architecture visibility, difficulty in understanding business logic, and can able to do impact analysis. So thank you so much for your time today. My team will reach out to you for a demo. We will send the recording of this. So if you want to share with your colleagues, please go ahead and share. And we are happy to answer some of your questions. And I hope the session was useful. Thank you, Sanchit, for arranging. Anupji, thank you so much for joining this call, especially it's a quarter ending, year ending. And Luke, it was fantastic presentation. We look forward for some more sessions from you. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Ankur. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sanjit. Bye-bye. Take care.